Hello and welcome to DDOcast, episode 433, recorded live on Sunday, June 12th. For a special show, we are live on DDO's official Twitch stream, DDO stream. They've got a whole bunch of shows there, and there wasn't anything going on today, and I thought this would be a fun episode to do live on that stream. Kind of a little bit of a different option for where we normally are at. We're normally at twitch.tv/DDOcast. We're on the official DDO stream today for a little bit of fun and games and our special debates episode. Before we get there, though, this week's screenshot comes from Barblash, standing heroically before Aptorix in the 273rd screenshot of the week. That is, I believe that's in the Ring of Fire challenge. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. And the next show will probably be next weekend. It might be a recorded show with Father's Day and just kind of managing that. You can stay updated by following us on social media. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best, or other social media pages like Facebook and YouTube. Or you can check out our website, DDOcast.com. We've got a calendar there, has our shows, and on a nice little calendar that you can look at, and some other news stuff like sales and bonus days. On the podcast this week, we are going to be doing one of our debate episodes. We've got some really fun questions lined up, but first let's meet who we have here. We'll start with, he is in the guild High Lords of Malkir, hosting all sorts of events, including teaching raids and see what you do. Hide and seek occasionally, and trivia events and giveaways. You guys just reached 200. Voodoo.
All kinds of good stuff. Hey, everyone. Glad to be back.
You may have seen him on DDOcast with me and a couple others. It's on Supply and Permadeath Guild on Thelonous. It's Chai.
Hello. Good morning.
Welcome. And from Utopia on Kyber, we have Antha.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, welcome back. So we're going to get into a debate here, and how this works. Each guest will be given the opportunity to give an opening argument in kind of a rotating order. We like arguments to be creative, passionate, and amusing, and we want them to be mostly factual. That always kind of helps when they are factual. But we don't want them to be mean. We don't want them to be to us or to other people in the devs. Counterpoints are encouraged. Interruptions are allowed at my discretion. The winner of the debates gets absolutely nothing. These are completely arbitrary. Our goal here is to create discussion on the topics at hand. And if you're listening live, please feel free to comment, root for ideas you like. Or if you're not listening to this live, feel free to mention something in our comment section, wherever you might be watching this show. YouTube, or you can send me an email at DDOcast@gmail.com. DDOcast.com, you can watch it there on the forums. Feel free to leave a comment, join the conversation in the debate. Love hearing, particularly for these debate episodes, it's a lot of fun to get people and see what other people think. So, with that, these questions are, I'll just kind of preface this, they're kind of producer-level-ish questions. They're not directly tied in with the producer's letter, but we're going to be kind of talking about some stuff at a fairly high level of design and game direction. And where we're going to start is how much death and failure should be deemed acceptable in DDO. And this comes from Minion of Grumsh. And Voodoo, you are going to lead us off for this one.
That's an easy one. The answer is 0. 0 death is acceptable. That doesn't mean you're not going to die. It doesn't mean if you die, it's the end of the world. But whenever you die, it's important to look critically at that. why did I die? What can I do to make sure I don't die in this situation? Etc. Etc. Now there are going to be times when maybe you're running with a pug, people get they zerg ahead, they bring back half the dungeon, red DA. I mean, if you die there, it's more understandable. But you could survive that too. But the point is that generally speaking, there's no amount of death that you're like, oh yeah, if I die 5 times a dungeon or 3 times a dungeon, that's fine. That's what I'm building for. You should be working towards not dying.
Just to clarify, this is from a design standpoint, not from a player standpoint.
Damn it, Jim.
We'll come back to you. Chai.
I actually do have a design standpoint response. I thought that normal should be fairly fail-free. Casual should almost be renamed to something like story mode, where you're in it to either learn the quest or read the plot or whatever without having to worry about getting killed. Hard should be, if you get complacent, you should probably experience character death. But if you're in a good group and nobody's really complacent, then you're probably not going to die. And then elite, what I call in tabletop death by dice, should happen once in a while. And then party wipes should happen if you're complacent or if people are soloing. It's like 6 people soloing the same instance, but nobody's really working together. Then party wipe should be definitely possible there.
Anta?
Gotta say I agree with Chai on every point, but what I'd like to say is I personally I like getting my butt kicked in the game. I love the champions, love that they implemented those. But if the game's too easy, man, I'd rather just go pick up a Lego game, right?
I like Legos.
So do I. But I'm just saying. So I think there definitely should be some deaths, and I think there should be some deaths on Elite or on Epic Elite.
All right, Voodoo, we'll come back to you.
I think that they should come out with new things that are gonna put people off balance, and they're gonna die the first few times they run into it. But I think that they should be things that you can build for, gear that you can get, etc., etc. That if you build for that, and you have the right gear, that you should be able to not die.
All right. So I like where this is going so far. You want to go a little farther with your Umber Hulks? Sound like you got a little cough or something you want to get off your chest there.
Yeah, so Umber Hulks was the last big one that equivocates to what he was just talking about, where I saw a lot of discussion on. There are people that thought that they shouldn't be subject to something they can't counter, but then they found out real quickly that, wait a second, I can actually counter this. It's just not using a saving throw. But there's gear. Sorry, go ahead.
Greater Harper Pen.
Yeah, there's gear that lets you counter that, and there are specific forms in specific classes that allow you to counter that.
So let me take this question one step further. What do you think the success rate should be of typical parties for running Legendary Elite quests and raids?
Wow.
You just want me to throw something out there?
Sure.
Probably 75% first time. Because after the metagaming kicks in, it becomes a lot easier because you know what to expect and you know what you need to build for. And characters will be built for that specific content because that's a lot of what people do. So probably 75% first time through, but it's probably not going to be death-free. It may take a while to get through it the first time as well.
Anyone else have thoughts?
There's so many variables, like the players themselves, their skill level, their gear, their actual. I mean, there's so many variables that go into this. So, what should the success rate be? That's so hard for me to answer without some of those variables being filled in. I guess I'm gonna just say without knowing those variables, generally speaking, you're talking first time. I'm just going to go ahead and agree.
Yeah, I'm thinking entire server,
Yeah.
like average.
I was
You know,
going to say 70-30 for the first run, and then the second time around, maybe 45.
Yeah, I see. Okay, then I'm not. I don't think that like if you take an average player, that their first time running legendary elite, that they're going to have a 75% chance of success. An average, like 6 average players. First time legendary elite. I think legendary elite should be something pretty freaking awesome. Something as a major challenge that you build
people should have to
for,
work together.
etc., etc.
They should definitely have to work together.
And I'm not saying those average players shouldn't be able to complete it after they've run it a few times and figured it out. I'm just saying, first time, I don't know. I kind of think they should get the smackdown.
So for the first time, what would you think the success rate should be?
If we're saying average player,
Yes, average players.
maybe something closer to 50%.
Is
That's
that
first-
experiencing
that's
character
first
death, or is
time-
that absolute
First
cluster?
time, it's first time, a group of average players, and yeah, they're going to experience, even with that, even when the people that do succeed, they're going to experience a lot of death along the way.
Let me put this framework on here. We'll say success. Failure doesn't mean that they don't complete the quest. Maybe success failure is more, can they get through it in a reasonable amount of time with a reasonable amount of resources? So like if they're party wiping and using a bunch of cakes, then I would say that we'll call that a quote failure for terms of this discussion. Does that help frame the?
I mean,
what we're talking about?
I'm thinking of like the first time we ran Legendary Elite Tempest Spine in Guild, right? And we had something like, I don't know, something close to like 75, maybe even 100 deaths. But we did it, and we felt awesome when we did it. When we completed, we got our butts handed to us. We completed, and we grew together as a guild, and it was all wonderful.
The first time that my guild completed Legendary Elite Shroud, I died 30 some odd times.
That's what I'm talking about.
Most in part 2. That devil's a pain. We toned down the devil a little bit. Jeez.
He was a pain in Heroic Shroud too. I like it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Legendary Elite Shroud, day 1, I don't know if it was day 1, but we went in there like really, really early on. Maybe it was day 2, and like in the first like few minutes, like half the party died, and so we were just like, okay, recall out, do hard. Like we weren't even gonna go there. You know what I'm saying? This is a guild of experienced players. I'm not saying we have all the top end players in the world, but I'm just saying like there's just a lot of experience in the guild.
Yep. In Heroic, when people got Sagrada and the Fire Elemental, they would recall out and face roll part 1 again in order to get back to part 2 to get a different draw of mobs.
I've been considering that on Legendary Elite. Jeez.
So yeah, it's very similar, and that's one of the reasons why I like it.
So I think I had a good discussion there. I liked the thing that I liked the most. The comment I liked the most out of there was from Voodoo. This idea that death should encourage you to build to success. I paraphrased that a little bit, but I liked that comment. That was something I really latched onto in there. So I'm going to give Voodoo the point for this one. But really good discussion. It's kind of a fun thing to think about is how much should people just feel like they could go in on Epic or Legendary Elite and just always win, even if they have no idea what they're doing. I think it's the fun. But I like the idea you're talking about building towards success. Some of the comments here asked the percentage of completion for Legendary and Elite, and Technical 13 said 93.2774%. It was very precise. I like that number. It's incredibly precise. Although Strumtom agreed that average player probably doesn't do Elite, and Technical 13 pointed out if they use the wiki and have a balanced party and group synergies, they should have much higher success rate than the average party. But there we go. Very nice discussion. We're going to go to our next question, which will be equally as interesting. This came from Bullseye on Kyber. Is it too difficult to build a viable DC caster? So we're talking about getting your spell DCs up so that you are viable and effective here. And we're going to start with Chai.
I'm going to say no, and here's why. So most of the pain in DC casting right now is actually spell penetration and not DCs. If you think about getting your DCs up, you could be 15% less effective on most schools. Some of them you're going to be like 10% less effective unless you're going all the way to completionist. But with spell penetration, you can actually be 45% less effective. You would need 3 wizard and 3 favored soul lives in order to get the 9 spell pen that is making you 45% less effective on mobs that have SR, which is a lot of endgame mobs. But is it difficult to build that? Not really, because in order to get those past lives, you could roll an iconic. Like there is a path where you roll an iconic, you get through the last 4 levels to 20, or last 5 levels to 20, and then after that you can basically face roll epic normal quests and never die, as per the previous discussion we just had, and do them very, very quickly for very fast XP, and get your TR lives together in order to get that spell pen. You will also be gaining DC if you do a wizard life, which you're going to do to gain the spell pen anyway, because you can take a feat for that you normally wouldn't be able to take. After that, it's just a matter of getting gear, and it's not really more difficult gearing a DC caster than it is gearing anything else. With the way that random loot is stacked right now, you can get most of the way there with random loot, and then you're going to probably want to build shroud stuff at the end. All of that stuff can be done on lesser difficulties if you want to do it as fast as possible. And I would, if the question was, does it take more time? I would say yes. But I don't equate time consumption necessarily to difficulty. You could have a first life warlock or a first life paladin or a first life bard be really effective at endgame if they're geared out. DC caster, not so much, but the path to getting there isn't actually hard. And since you should enjoy playing the game anyway, you should just enjoy playing through all of those lives in order to get that, and then having one of the few DC casters when everybody else is kind of jumping on the path of least resistance bandwagon, so to speak.
Antha?
I was going to go the opposite, and I was going to say yes. If we're looking at this for a regular player, I was going to say yes, because you've got to get some TRs under your belt, so you can get the. You can't be a 28-point build. You got to be at least 34, I would say. And you've got to have your main ability score maxed out. You've got to have some feats in the spell school, and you've got to have some items with the ability bonus to it. And I feel like once you get to end game, there you're pretty much locked in Magister if you want to max your DC out. But I'll say it's been a while since I've played a DC caster.
All right, Voodoo?
It has been a while since I've been serious about playing a DC caster. I did recently go through, when Deep Gnomes came out, I did the PK thing. And so one of the things that I was surprised about is I thought at some point that, because I'm not like, I don't have that expertise of building for DC casting, and I thought like once I got maybe halfway through epic levels that the PK would run out. I'd have to switch over and be a Sharadi caster. But I was able to go all the way to cap and keep hitting with a PK that had, just like an okay DC, and I don't even have all the caster pass lives. So, I'm gonna agree with Chai. I don't think it's too difficult. I think you do need to focus on spell penetration. I think past lives do help, and I think those are important too. But I definitely think you can build towards it. And, if you are a first lifer, yeah, there are going to be some mobs that maybe you're not going to be able to hit. But you can build towards that. And if that's where you want to go, do it,
Anyone else have thoughts on the matter?
It basically takes more time, but not more difficulty. The path to doing it is probably one of the last bastion of where you would need a lot of heroic lives. I guess I wouldn't even say a lot. It's more like 6 is more of an absolute number. But right now we're kind of entering an era where heroics are not or the heroic past lives are not really making a huge impact on endgame play anymore. But this is like DC casting is one of the last places where it actually does because of spell pen.
Interesting video that you're talking about PK, because that requires 2 saves.
Yep.
Right.
And spell resistance if
Yeah.
necessary.
And I only had, there's available +9 from past lives to spell penetration. I only had +5 when I did that life, and like I wasn't like stressing about getting the best possible gear and blah blah blah. Like I was just racing through a life. And then I'm not saying I was going on legendary elites and hitting it, but I was able to get to 30, and maybe steer away from quests that had like undead, because obviously undead can't be PK'd. But I was able to do it, and it's part of the Ginger Gnome series, the first life of that series. I did it, and I talked about doing it all along the way in every video.
It's an interesting discussion because when you get to DC casting, right, it tends to be a little more powerful than a lot of other abilities. So there's an interesting question here of should it be more difficult than kind of your normal run-of-the-mill characters. And we kind of talked about some past lives came up. Strimtom in our chat actually said DC casters need past lives, most melees don't, which is fairly true in today's environment. Yeah. I'm going to give it... Go ahead.
One last comment. I'm going to say that as a former DC caster, I was a little disgruntled too, because I was watching monks going in there with everything is nothing, just wiping the screen. I'm watching barbarians right now doing their... I forget what it's called, but it's basically weird. It's basically mass PK. What's the ability called? It's the Ravager capstone, I think.
I'm not sure.
But it's just, wiping out half a dozen mobs with PK, boom. And it's like, I'm a DC caster, and it's harder for me to kill stuff than these barbarians and monks, like doing these insta-kill things. So I was a little upset about that. So if you're a DC caster and you're feeling that kind of pain, I'm standing with you in solidarity.
I agree with you there, Ginger. I remember that. It was time of the monk.
It's one of those things where it's success or fail, right? There's not really an increment on your DC casting. It's either you land it or you don't. So that can be kind of there's an awkward thing there of your. I think we were talking about your perception, player perception. There comes into play a lot. Oh boy, I'm gonna give this point a try. I like what your points about time, and also how you brought up spell penetration into the conversation, which I think is an easy thing to forget when you're building a DC caster.
Yep, it's huge.
So, with that, we're going to go to our next question, which is pitch a quality of life change. So this is something that is not really necessary or doesn't really impact your character performance, but makes life a little easier. And we're going to start with Antha.
Okay. I'd like to see an airship dock in Caneth. It's the only house that doesn't have one. The only way to really get there is if you have on your ship, you've got a far shifter, and he's on one of the different levels. So it's House Caneth. I mean, come on, it should have one, right?
Does the far shifter actually send you to House Caneth?
It has a portal behind you, or behind him.
Okay. Voodoo.
Coming from the standpoint of being a leader in a guild, I'm going to go with I'd like to see some expanded guild tool options. So, a couple examples would be like I'd love to see us be able to like sort by account, because you look at all these alts and it can be really confusing. You can lose track of whose alts are who. It would be really nice if you could sort by account. It would also be really nice if they added some extra tabs in the social panel in the guild. Like right now it's just, here's the roster and here's the bonuses you get for the guild level. I would love to see like some additional tabs, blank tabs that I can rename and customize, just a blank sheet, kind of like a character bio, where I can maybe add our guild rules. And another one, I'm going to name it our schedule. Here's our raid schedule. And another one, I'm going to name it, WTF ever. whatever I want. The point is, like, that's really easy. These are blank pages that I can name, and that would be so nice to have that there instead of having to have that stuff on a website that people have to go to, go online to, and sign in, and look at, I want it all to be right there, and that right there would be so easy to do.
So you're talking about something like the character bio, but for guilds, like some
For
tabs.
guild, yeah. So like right now, when you go to the social panel in guilds, there's 2 tabs. One is rewards and one is, I forget what it's called, but it's just the roster. I want new tabs that I can add, that I can rename to whatever I want, and just a blank sheet that I can add whatever information I want. Like again, like our rules, like our raid schedule, like whatever I want.
Well, it's certainly a free up message of the day, which isn't very long, anyways.
Exactly. That thing is so small. It's irritating.
That's just for the coupon.
Yeah. All right, Chai, your turn.
The one thing that I've seen almost unanimous agreement with, and most discussions I've been in over the last year or so, is that people want more shared bank space and shared or character space. So I went with double the shared bank space. I'd make it retroactive so that it's not just new purchasers, but new purchasers would get it too. That way, if you have 100 in your shared bank, you'd get 200. That would give you another 100 slots, or give every single person that bought it 100 slots. It'd probably make it a lot more attractive to buy. This is something that people are saying that they would pay for, even if they gave us more, just at the same increments. People are already saying that. So to double it, those who haven't bought it would probably buy it a lot more often.
Clarifying question: do you envision there being a price increase with this?
No.
Okay. Okay, so why is your... So this is for everybody. Why is your idea something they should address more than the others?
We already had share bank. They just came out with, what, 4 more? I mean, I think we need to just come out with, like therapy for hoarders. Because what do we got? 160 spaces available now, and 2,000 shared crafting bank storage, and then your personal bank, and you got people, I need more bank space. You need to get rid of your crap is what you need to do.
Shared bank space affects everybody. Guild roster stuff affects the one person who leads the guild and anybody you give permission to author in there, which is less than everybody.
Like it.
Dear. Spirited. I'm trying to be spirited.
DDO hoarders, he says.
That was a great response, Voodoo. I gotta say that. Therapy sessions. So, which existing NPC would be the therapist? I'll let you think about that. Anthony, do you want to get in here?
Militia.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Can't disagree with that.
There might be more hoarders and not less, though.
Yeah.
Let's say Jeets just for the humor.
Oh, jeez. Antha, why a Kenneth airship tower?
Well,
Why is that better than bank space and guild tabs?
Well, honestly, it's not. their points were great, but I'll pitch it. I personally find myself teleporting there a lot. I do a lot of the crafting over there in House Caneth. I also turn in the ingredients for guild renown potions. So I'm constantly teleporting back and forth there real quick, and then trying to get back into a quest. I just think it would be nice to have that there for convenience.
Maybe we could just say that more airship towers, just in general, would be great. You think about all of the,
except for Evening Star.
Yeah, I mean, I get why they don't have them in Evening Star. It's not convenient, but I get why they don't have them in Evening Star. But I mean, the Giant Hold, Necropolis, the Upper Necro.
Yeah.
By the Orchard Macabre, that's a long run back to an airship. That's a hike. Although doesn't WoW have way more running between places?
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
You spend a whole quest time running there, and then getting to the quest, doing the quest.
But don't they have things you can like steeds you can fly there on?
I think so.
Probably.
But who plays WoW anymore anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's 50 billion people.
Basically, tell the steed to go there. You go AFK for a few minutes while it does a grand tour of the world, and then you come back after it lands.
There you go. All right. Oh boy. I'm giving this one to try. Just on the strength of the therapy comments. That was great.
Wait, did you chime in? Where are you at on this, Patrick? Where's your quality of life?
Man, this isn't one of the ones I really thought too much about. I do like your guild idea though of having some more. As someone who manages or leads a lot of raids in my guild, it would be nice, certainly nice to have some more space there to put some of that information down. So that's probably the one I like. I don't generally have trouble with bank space, although I do keep a lot of stuff in my reincarnation cache. So, but I don't keep if it's not named. I generally tend not to keep it. So, and most of the stuff I keep, I don't use anyways.
So as the moderator, you're not coming up with your own. This one I'm hearing.
Not on this one.
Okay.
I can give you 3 or 4 on the next question though.
What about ingredient bags or not ingredient spell component bags?
You know, for years I wanted this, but here's the thing. I don't want anymore, and here's why. Because there is clearly some lag issues when things go in and out of bags, and
That's
there is
true.
no way I'm sticking my spell components in a bag that's going to make them lag when they are used.
Or not go off at all.
Right.
The other thing with that is I think casters in general tend to carry, or at least in my stable, they tend to carry less weapons than, say, a melee character might. So it kind of feels to me like a bit of a balancing issue, like a balance in terms of inventory space. That, okay, I have to take up 9 spots out of my inventory for spell components. It's not that big a deal.
Here's something, though. If they came out with a spell components bag that acted as just another tab at the top, like a bag space, but it was just special for spell components, maybe it was like a mini bag space. If they did it like that, then that
Maybe.
could work. But like a separate like ingredients bag, like your collectibles bags, no. Please no.
I'd put it on the spell page.
Yeah. I would say maybe bigger ingredient bags might be a useful thing. Just because as the game life has progressed, we get more and more and more and more ingredients. The number of ingredients that they're putting out never goes down. It will soon with King of Craft, and they're going to shorten the number of ingredients. But that's something I would kind of look at.
Militia has office hours after DDOcast. Just saying. You want to do walk-in? She's available.
Let's move on to our next question, which is pitch a redesign or expansion of an existing system. And this could be just about anything and run the gamut of stuff that's actually in game that we use different systems. And we're going to start this one with Chai.
For this, I went with something that I feel would make all of the previous endgame eras relevant again, and anything that was epic, I would have a 4th upgrade for, like in the Seal, Shard, Scroll era, where you could upgrade it to Legendary. There would be Legendary versions of all of those old epic quests as well, eventually. So you would have Legendary Demon Queen and Legendary Demon Queen loot, Legendary Chronoscope set loot, Legendary Claw set, Legendary Vaughn with Legendary Sword of Shadows, stuff like that. What bard wouldn't want the Legendary Rapier out of House D, for instance? I mean, I see people going for that, even like the regular epic version, because it makes the single target buffs multi-target. Things that would make people run a lot more of the previous endgame. I know that the developers have spoken on how sometimes they have a budget or they have resource issues with how many people they have working, and it's harder to make content, and a lot of that old content is still run. It's still loved by the veteran players, so they could reuse a lot of that like they have been. and bring that up to par as far as the legendary era is concerned, and allow us to take some items out of our banks in order to put some of those back on, and the current end game that we took a lot of work farming in previous end game eras.
In some cases, never completed.
Yeah.
And
Mine's going to sound a little like Chai's, but the it's a raid loot with what the upgrading raid loot they did with the the altar in Giant Hold and the fountain in Necropolis. I'd like to see them go back and retouch on some of that stuff. Maybe add something like that to the desert or to the Restless Isles, where you can upgrade the raid loot to just something more useful. Like I said, I mean, we how many hours do we spend farming this stuff? The content's still great. It's just the items aren't up to par.
Voodoo?
I have been an advocate for Reaver's Refuge being the next epified pack. And one of the reasons I love that pack. I love the quest. I also would love to see Dragon Touched Armor see some love. Okay, it needs to be updated, and I want to see an epic or legendary version of this, okay? This is one of the things we're totally missing in DDO right now is customizable armor, and the closest thing we have to it, at least in epic levels, is going to be like Shadow Dragon Scale, but that's not really customizable. I mean, you're just picking from a list of, preset qualities, and you can't even put all of those on every kind of armor, like the Shadow Guardian. You can only put that on the heavy. I'd love to be able to put that on medium, for example, but I don't have the option. I'd like fully customizable armor, and I'm gonna take it one step further. They need to make dragon touched shields because we don't have customizable shields too. So that'd be freaking awesome. We need it. People want it. We don't have it in the game. Boom.
Dragon Touch Armor was a little iffy anyways in terms of its organization.
What?
How it was done. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it had issue. I'm not saying the armor wasn't good. I'm saying like how you made it was problematic.
You had to win the rune lottery in order to get the thing you wanted.
Okay, but they did change that, to be fair. You're right. Early days, that was insane. I mean, how many of us just farmed Prey on the Hunter for Tempest Runes like a crap ton of times?
Oh yeah,
I couldn't get the
how
Sovereign.
these characters are, because they've got bags of those shards.
Right. But then now that they changed it where you can see what the rune name is, and there was a workaround back in the day too. That was pretty sweet. It was pretty slick.
What was that?
You could tell what the runes were by copying, like, I forget it was, something to do with copying the code and pasting it into Notepad and then cross-referencing the number, the ID number, to another list, and you'd be like, oh, that's this rune.
Yep.
You remember doing that?
Yep. You were basically looking on their database to see what the database
Right.
identifier was for that item.
Right, exactly, dude.
And then if it fell into the same stack, then it was the same rune.
Some of you
surprised I didn't
guys
hear
out
of
there
that.
going, what? I didn't know you could do that. Damn it.
Yeah, old devs said that wasn't working as intended, but we're not really going to do anything about it. Whatever.
It's a moot point now because we can read the
Yeah.
runes now. But still, that was a clever workaround back in the day.
So tell us and the listeners why what you're pitching is something that DDO should get. No, forget the resources part of it. Assuming resources were infinite, why would this be something that would be worth devoting the time for?
That's a major assumption, assuming resources are infinite, because I'm gonna have a hard time selling mine compared to Chai's. Because Chai's idea is friggin' awesome, man.
Let me rephrase that. Let's not get into the resources aspect of it, right?
All right.
But I get, we all understand that resources are limited and they have to pick and choose some things. But why would it be worth? Let me put it this way: why would it be worth devoting the resource time to these ideas? Go.
People love Reaver's Refuge. I already gave my pitch at the end, but I'm gonna say it again. It's a beloved pack. They're awesome quests. We need them epified big time. I mean, if the goal, I believe, is to hypothetically epify everything, I mean, I need to be the next one because it's awesome. People have been asking for Dragon Touch forever. Customizable armor totally lacking in the game right now. Customizable Dragon Touch shield would be a really just gorgeous add-on to that when they made the whole thing epic. It's just something that is so needed. People have lots of great memories about farming for the Dragon Touch. They want to see new epic versions, and again, to have that customizable armor and shield option is going to be amazing.
Chai or Antha, you want to chime in last thought here?
Yeah, a lot of people's favorite content seems to be a lot of the older stuff, like right around 2009 through 2011. People still play it a lot, even though the loot really isn't relevant for anything other than pass-through levels. So I think a good plan, and it sounds to me like they've already even started doing this with like Hound and Tempest Spine and Shroud now. And I think probably, Vision of Destruction we might be looking at in the future. But even of the stuff that has already gone epic once, if they went over that again, all of that stuff would then become relevant. And instead of having to build this new end game from scratch, they already know what it looks like. A lot of it's already done for them. They can scale up the dungeons like they always have. And then the loot can have current end game values on it, and it makes the entire game relevant again for all aspects rather than just gaining XP to get to level 30.
Antha, any closing thoughts?
I was going to say, didn't they talk about doing that as long as we were willing to give up some new content for it?
Just some of that in there, yeah. They have said it takes about as much time to convert old content as to create new content.
Yeah.
So.
Well, both ideas were great. I'd like to see them both happen.
I'm going to give Chai and Antha each half a point for the idea of getting... Everyone kind of had a very similar theme of here's some older content that we'd like to see get some love and more attention and people running it. Voodoo's was a little bit more narrow. Granted, I love that content. I would love to have Legendary Weaver's Refuge. I think that's probably my top pack to make Legendary. Because I do like those quests a lot.
Those monastery traps, ooh, that'd be a killer.
Legendary Enter the Kobold. And I'm going to say this too. I'd be totally fine if the legendary versions were essentially the same, and but I'd love to see, like, when you do Stealer of Souls and you get to that optional end that it's not Swordjack, that those undead dragons that are hanging up above and looking over, you fight all those. Okay? And if you have never noticed when you went into Stealer of Souls in the Swordjack chamber, look up. There's all these like spirit dragons up there. It's really cool.
I was actually surprised when we did the scavenger hunt last year. I don't think anyone sent me a picture of the dragons in there. If you're looking for named dragons, there were 6 of them right there. Yeah. So in any case, we'll go on to our next question, and this one, I think this is gonna be a fun one. We're going to pitch new bonus days. So every week they do every weekend they do a new bonus day. Some of these are not going to be full. The time may be a little different. We're going to pitch new bonus days, and we're going to start with Voodoo.
A free feat changing day. Now I'm going to say as a player, I'd love to see a day where like I can change out feats as many times as I want. And now I understand it's going to cut into like, sales of hearts and stuff. So I want to be real about it and say, if we had a bonus day where like per tune we could change out one feat, or even if they just gave us a free feat changing token that was bound to account and that we could use it on one tune, and they did this once in a while. Like, that would be so freaking cool. It's, it's simple. The mechanics are already there. It's a nice thing. And we all could use it.
All right. Chai.
I looked at why content becomes popular. We already have bonus for XP. Like Von 5 is popular for that. So I went with being able to re-roll your chest loot once per chest for like a 3-day period of time, like during the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that. So because there is content that is popular not because it's high XP, but because good loot comes out of it, and a lot of the loot farmers would benefit from that. I know we already have one where you get like levels of loot, but that basically, in most cases, it just ramps up your garbage loot to +1 higher or whatever, and it sells for a little bit more. This would actually be meaningful as it will allow you to farm loot at double rate, but it would be a good bonus day rather than permanent insertion into the game, because you could then turn it on or off for like 3 days to try and get more people to log on and run other content other than just XP content.
And just to clarify, too, for the people that are listening, +1 to loot doesn't increase your chances for named items, which is usually what people re-roll for anyways.
Yep.
All right, Antha?
All right. I'd like to see a reincarnation day where it's just maybe like 8 or 10 hours, just one day, where they give 100% bonus XP. I think the highest right now is 50, but I mean, if you stack that with a Sovereign Elixir, that's 150, plus the Guild Renown and the Master, that's 100. You got like 160% bonus extra XP. Yeah, that'd be nice. But I'm a junkie TR.
Just to clarify, are we talking heroic, epic, or both?
Both.
Okay. All right, so we'll go around again. Sell me on yours. What's awesome about it? Or any other thoughts you want to put out there?
Also, what's awesome about it is you're always farming. We're always farming XP. For Chai's, just wait till the next item comes out. You're going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, there's items that will be popular for a while, though. This gets you into different content. Like, there's already content that's popular for XP, and there's content that's popular for loot, and there's already a bonus day for XP or a couple of different bonuses for XP that they do on a regular basis. So I think that they should change it up a bit and do one based on being able to farm loot faster as well.
I gotta say,
a free fee changing day. I mean, this sells itself. I don't even need to do a sales pitch on this because everybody wants it already.
Maybe. I don't know. All right, so I like all these ideas. They're all really interesting ideas.
I don't even need to pitch this.
I will say, though, Voodoo, with as much epic reincarnation and lesser reincarnation people do, that I mean, you do get to change your feats pretty frequently. And I do like, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Someone in our chat who is using a name that needs to buy some pronunciation for English. I can't, yeah. Is saying that items come and go, XP grind is the only constant.
Yes,
so.
I got someone on my side. Woo!
However, there are people who are saying that Teutonic Drone does like the free reroll weekend, which I think I'm gonna lean in that direction on this one.
Would that count for raids like in the Abbot?
Well, it's any chest you can reroll, but you can't reroll raid chests, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do like the idea. Because it's kind of along the same vein of a loot bonus, but it's a very different type of loot bonus, and I think it does have a lot of interesting options. I do want to go backwards because Voodoo asked me what my ideas for pitching a quality of life change are, and I didn't have any for that. But for pitching existing systems and expansions, this one was one that's the hardest for me to not really get involved in because I had a lot of interesting ways to go. I mean, scroll seals and shards would be nice to make some changes so that it would be easier to get the stuff. I like the idea of having raid runes kind of go to other raids, so you could maybe, I don't know, buy the seals, scrolls, and shards that you're looking for by running those raids. But I'd also like to see kind of more rewards that you could get out of the raid runes so that people continue to run raids even after they got all the gear. Sagas is the one that I've talked about a lot. I think the one that I kind of went for, kind of one that I would land on is tomes. One from the standpoint of, we're talking about this in some of my friends online. We're talking about having legendary tomes that were just a separate channel, so that you didn't have to keep getting go from +7 to +8 to +9. Just have like legendary +1 to something, and just have those tomes. You don't have to find different ones. It just gives you a +1 that stacks up to 3 times or something like that. Kind of like a past life feat. And probably just kind of for ease of tomes, but also giving you something that you could stick. It'd be something that you could stick into raid runes, right? Like you get a legendary raid, legendary tome for something, and then get a +1 that stacks with the heroic versions. That's kind of where I was going with that. But there's a lot of places you could do some expansion design. So, and see, Denord has an idea here to have a veteran option to start at 15, and not just the prestige classes, but for new roles like players, a veteran 3 status. So, it could definitely be a good one. All right, let's see. Our last question, and this is always a fun thing to think about. What is the best place to cast Grease? There's a lot of good options here. Talking about the spell Grease, and I will note that I believe everyone picked an opportunity to grief your fellow players. We'll start with Antha.
Rainbow in the Dark, where you're making the jump over the spikes, and after, of course, the rogue disables the trap.
Why after?
Because they'll get paralyzed and the grease will go away.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that. Voodoo.
Tempest Spine. There's a point in which you come out of the mountain and you have to run along the cliffs and go back in. Right there, when they first come out, you throw a grease, especially in heroics when people don't have freedom of movement yet, and they're going over the edge. Goodbye.
Jai.
I picked the pillar at the top of Vaughn 5 on those pillars where you throw the levers, because it's hilarious watching somebody throw a lever and try to stay on a pillar at the same time.
All right. So why is your place more devious than any other place in DDO?
I'll tell you why. Because if I want to grief my guildies, I want, when it's done, them to hate me with a white-hot, fiery passion. And you know, those other ones, maybe they'll die, maybe it'll be a laugh inconvenience. Like, you do it at this point, when you're walking out of Tempest Spine, and they fall all the way down, they gotta run all the way back, they're gonna be screaming at you over mic, which is the effect that I'm looking for when I grief my guildies.
I'd say because unless you have a high reflex save, you're probably going to die. You're going to lose 10% XP.
All right. Jai?
Just because the theatrics of trying to throw a lever, standing in one spot when you can't really stand in one spot, and then trying to stay on top of the pillar at the same time is hilarious. Falling doesn't necessarily mean instant death. It does mean that you're not getting back over to the left side, however, unless you run back and redo all of that, which is inconvenience for other people to have to come back and open the door for you. So you're basically on the right side from that point over.
You guys are all devious. I like it.
I want to give an honorable mention, though. There's one other spot I'd just like to talk, because otherwise people are like, why do you say this? Abbott Goggles. You know, you're across first. There's somebody else being led across. You toss a bunch of greases. Boom.
That's pretty devious, actually. I always liked the on the way up to the pitcher's plate in Vaughn 6. It's always a good one.
Did you guys, for those of you
That's cruel.
who played on Sarlona, do you remember the sabotage runs?
I've heard you talk about them, but
Yep.
I would not grease. That is because Vaughn 6, like, they're out of the raid at that point. Like, I am not that mean. Like, that is just mean. Like, I'm not doing that.
I did have someone once, back when Wonder Pots put mines down, explosive mines. I had someone drop a mine there, which caused all sorts of panic. I think 2 people survived it, and a couple people fell off. Even in their ghost form, it was mayhem. It was pretty funny, except for the people that were out of the raid. But it was pretty funny.
They took those out, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. You can't do that anymore, which is good and bad. I'm gonna throw this one to Voodoo. You didn't mention it, but you had the great passion. I like the passion, and you didn't mention it though. The Tempest Spine is one of those maps that people tend to learn the way to go, but they don't learn the rest of the map. And if you fall off in the wrong spot, you end up somewhere that you don't know how to get back.
Oh my God,
So-
we're dealing with this all the time now. At the end, when Sorjak's tossing us off, people get lost down there. Like, how long have you been playing this game?
It's yes, but at the same time, you get tossed off a lot more now, so there is that, right? You didn't used to get tossed off quite as much because it was shorter, so there was that. All right, we are going to transition into game news. Great debate, a lot of fun. If you have comments, you want to throw in your own thoughts in there, please do so. We'll get into game news, and there was a little bit. First off, we have a new update. Update 31, patch 2 came out. We'll go through the release notes really quick. There's not a lot here. Fixed several stacking effect issues that may have been contributing to lag, including freedom of movement and bonus damage dice on weapons. And there was some information from Cordovan on this about kind of what's kind of behind this. It's not that you're getting the effect multiple times. It's when it gets put on your character, it says, "Hey, I've got it," and then you get it again and say, "Hey, I've got it again," and it keeps telling the servers, communicating with the servers, I guess, that you have it. So you're not getting more benefit from it. It's just the server is looking at it multiple times, in effect. So they're hoping to get some more of those out of the way. They also fixed the Deep Gnome past life to properly give Illusion DC instead of Enchantment DC. And they added a new monster manual, Monster Manual 7. The monsters that are in this monster manual, Wanty, Werewolf, Drow, although the Von 3 Drow are apparently not counting, but they are supposed to be. Bears, which has a creature companion, Driders, Dretch, Dragloth, Glabrazu, Monstrous Plants, and Purple Worms. A nice selection of monsters. And Drow is in there, which has been something that's been asked for quite a long time. And they also added additional monitoring to help us investigate the impact of large mail queues in-game. Which, I don't know, sounds a little ominous, don't you think? Like we're gonna... There may be in our future less mail space.
That's what I was thinking from reading that. Which would also slow down what you can sell in the auction house or shard exchange.
True.
I want to mention something about Monster Manual since we're talking about it.
Absolutely.
Because I'm still finding people that don't know this, okay? There are lots of rewards that you get for killing a certain number of monsters that you have to go in and claim. So you open your Monster Manual, if you see a little yellow exclamation point next to the name, and you gotta like open up the menu to see all the individual monsters. Click on that, and then you have to go down and click on the reward to claim it. I mean, there's Astral Shards, Creature Companions, Mysterious Remnants, all kinds of good stuff in there. So if you didn't know that stuff was there, like if you've had Monster Manual all this time, and like you didn't know the stuff there, you have a horde of stuff waiting for you. So go claim your rewards, folks.
And then set up your therapy session.
With Militia.
She does group therapy if there's too many.
Yes.
Oh, that's going into a place that could be bad. The only thing that's auto granted for those is the XP. So that's a very good point. You actually have to go in and claim your astral shards or your remnants and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of talk about Reaper mode, and this has come up before, but we'll mention it again. Cordovan came in and said that some verbiage related to Reaper difficulty slipped into a build and was released. That should not be an indication that the feature is in active development. Not to say that it will or will not happen definitively, but it's not something they're actively working on at the moment. Reaper mode would be kind of fun, though. I did like what Seb was saying, and that kobolds could, like the kobold as a race, potentially could be a hard mode. Could be kind of some fun.
I like that. That sounded cool.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one. Interesting idea.
I think too many people would be frustrated though that they
Yeah.
didn't get to play Cobalt as a normal build though. That was I would hate to see it only for hard mode. It is a neat idea,
Well, I think
but
I think the idea that he's talking about is you could play a kobold, but kobolds would probably have an overall penalty to stats. That was kind of how I took that.
yeah, and like I said, I think that it's kind of a neat concept, but I think too much of the player base is going to be frustrated that they can't play a Kobold, quote unquote, normally, like a normal class
Sure.
or race.
True. Bound status of items. There was some discussion going on in the forums, and Corbin. Part of this was related to ideas that they've said that having too much inventory can create lag because it's too large. It's a larger queue of items and stuff like that. That's kind of the layman's version of that. They do not want to create an environment where people played. So this is on bound status in general. They don't want to create an environment where people played only free quests to earn enough platinum to buy all or most of their named items off the auction house rather than run new content. If for no other reason than it disincentivizes the creation of new content. I think that's a fair point. That's always kind of been the case. There are quite a few reasons for having bound to character on equip, bound to account, and unbound loot, including how to best support various crafting systems, design goals, and financial business goals. That said, he's sure that if they went through the entire loot list, they'd find places where binding status could be adjusted. This thread seemed to be focusing on bound to character loot, quote, causing lag. The issue is the amount of storage, not the binding state of the items in storage. If making items unbound cause more items to go into storage, that would increase the problem rather than lessen it, to the extent that people hoard bound to character items in case they might need them. It does contribute to the overall issue, but he doesn't know that making all or most non-raid items unbound would improve things. Any thoughts you guys have on bound items and status of that?
When did loot started being related to lag?
When someone made a comment that, well, it wasn't loot so much. The comment wasn't towards loot, but people interpreted it that way. The idea was that having more character storage could be an issue with lag from the standpoint that how your character talks to the server to have all of that loot available could increase the load on the servers.
I've had first-hand experience. I can tell when I'm loading in on like a first or second lifer compared to my main. I mean, they load in a lot faster due to how much loot they have.
Oh,
in the
it's
banks.
crazy. I mean, I
Yeah.
have like prize mules, for the games that I host, and they're just first lifers that just have, no path life cache or anything. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Stuff moves in and out of the bank really fast, and I load in fast, and I wish my main tunes were like that.
Yeah, I think that phenomenon just got attributed. Some people, it's some of this stuff is hard. I'm not a computer guy, and it's hard to keep track of some of the stuff sometimes. But I think some people just took that and kind of applied it to character status, or it kind of came into the conversation. Probably because they were talking about we got all the stuff that's bound to character, so I'm hoarding it on this character, which creates storage problems. But you're saying we can't have more storage problems because of lag, so can we not have this stuff be bound to character so I can move it around?
Yeah,
I
it's
think that's kinda where
irritating
it
because like you can sell that stuff on the shard exchange, so you can like list
Only
it
if it's
cheap
bound
and
to
then
character on
switch.
equip.
Yeah, you can do that, and then you can switch to another character and then buy it off the shard exchange real quick. But then you're wasting shards. Like, so there is a workaround, but like it's a pain in the butt and it costs shards. So like if we can sell it on the shard exchange, I'd like to see it bound to account on equip, fine, but buying a character on equip, come on now.
Sure. I don't know. My thoughts are raid loot should be bound to character in general, rather than crafting and stuff. But raid loot should be bound to character.
I agree.
I prefer. I understand that you want to bind stuff so that people run the content. When we're talking about not raid stuff, I prefer it to be bound to account because then I can run whatever I want, and I can still get the stuff without having to run specific characters. Those are kind of my two thoughts on the matter.
I'm the
Although-
opposite. I prefer the bound to character on equip Then you can sell it.
There's that. Yeah, that would be nice as well. I think there's some stuff that's like bound to account on Equip too.
Yeah, there's a few of those.
And there's certain items like the Gibber's Blade. I've gone back and forth on that, if that should be bound to account or bound to character.
It should be bound to character. So it forces the person to give it up.
It's a pretty powerful item.
Yeah, it is.
For sure. In any case, bonus days this week. Through today, June 12th, you can get 50% challenge rewards, extra challenge rewards, which is great. It's also Champion Hunter Week through June 16th, so you can get the cloaks and augments and flasks and all the other kind of fun stuff you can get from the Champion vendor that's only available for short times. If you're looking at that stuff and there's something there that you want, check your monster manual. You might have some remnants lying around in there. Let's see, store news. Some new items. There's a Monster Manual 7. There's also, so that was new. They also have Bigby's Guiding Hands now. It used to be you could only buy them in the pack or in the bundle. It was like Bigby's Treasure Chest or something like that. You can now get those individually. You can also, for the first time, get long-lasting potions of 10 MRR or PRR. They've been available in the dice for a while, but now you can actually get the item. You can buy them, which probably means they'll be available in freebies eventually. I'm hoping for Bigby's Hand freebies. That's kind of what I'm looking at. I'd actually use those for free. I haven't played with them yet. Sales this week. Through today, June 12th, they have a special sales of 35% off of Supreme Ability Tomes and 75% off of bags. So if you've been waiting to get a bag, now's a great time to do it. Also, our weekly sales through June 16th, 30% off of Monster Manuals, Slayer Boosts, select pets and accessories, and companion name changes. You can also, for the freebie of the week, get 10 light spell point potions with the code SPELLS, plural, 1 per account.
It's spell power, right? These aren't spell point potions, are they?
I think they're spell point potions.
They're spell point potions. I just picked them up. I was surprised there were 10 of them.
Okay, so when you say light, how many spell points is that giving you?
I didn't look. I
think it's 45 to 135. But don't.
I'm glad we had this discussion because I really thought that those were like plus, to radiant spell power, and didn't even bother with it. So I'm gonna go get those.
No, they're spell points. You can get spell points back. So
what's the coupon?
Spells. SPLLS, like a spell.
You got all kinds of interest now, buddy. We're in there now.
Yeah, like it says. Why does it say light? That's not an existing category. It's all supposed to be like minor and major, and
it's one of the lower ones.
I think it's like a store-bought thing that you don't loot in game.
Yeah, it's not.
Just like Supreme and all that stuff.
All right, we'll get into
concentrated.
We'll get into community news. We'll start with the 193rd Chronicle. The Chronicle is back this week. They gave a community spotlight to DDO Players News for their blog on the assault of the slave lords. We mentioned this last week, but it's a really good kind of introduction to the slave lords pack, and it's really short little pieces, but they did a nice job of doing an introduction to the pack. So if you haven't, because I've never played it, never read it, good base information. Full Moon Fury celebrates a holiday with 32 raids in 24 hours. Voodoo, have you ever done that many raids in that amount of time?
No.
That's a lot of raids. Let's see, the events. High Lords of Malkira had a Mark of Death teaching raid yesterday.
That went well.
Yeah,
it was a good time. We got 3 more teaching raids coming. Join us if you're new on Sarlona.
Yeah. The Munchkin Summer Games continue on Kyber. And let's see, the guild for the week. Celestial Knights are an Arganesson-based guild of mature players looking for others to join them. The guild is looking for a few people to join them during static group from 6 until 9 p.m. Central Time. I will say I've gotten a few comments and questions recently about joining guilds and how to find a guild and players to play with. And one thing we haven't mentioned about that is if you go through the back dates of the Chronicle, you can look at different guilds. They highlight a guild every time, They move servers and whatnot. But if you would like to find a guild on a server, this might be a good way to do that. The comment
Check
for
the guild forum too. Each server has its own forum, and there's a guild forum section too. That's a great place for people looking for a guild to see who's recruiting.
And you can also just post in there and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a guild."
Yep.
You don't have to just look for guilds, or you can say, "I'm looking for a guild. This is what I'm looking for. This is the time I play." The comment for the week: why don't owl bears have the body of an owl and the head of a bear? Anybody?
Yeah,
You see, children, when an owl and a bear love each other very, very much.
If you do an image search for bear owl, in Google, you're gonna come up with a couple images, and you're just like, okay, it's obvious when you see it. Like, this just doesn't work.
It's too disproportionate.
Yeah, the obvious answer would be then it would be a bear owl, not an owl bear.
It's the same reason that chocolate and hot peppers should not have ever come together.
Sure. I have actually. There's a local. I think they might sell more broadly, but Chucker Cherries is a local company that does chocolate covered cherries. And I tried. They had a bag of Chipotle chocolate covered cherries.
No.
Not. Didn't really like it.
Some people love it.
The flavors just did not work for me.
No, hot peppers and chocolate should never.
I like Chipotle. I like chocolate, and I like cherries. The three together did not work.
Mm-mm. I want Chipotle. I want hot peppers on my Thai food, not in my chocolate.
Yeah. Fansite news. DDOcast got a shout out for our episode last week talking about twisting, epic twists. DDO Players News got a shout out as well for their show. The Damsels of DDO did a Wolfpack Shroud, which looked like a lot of fun. I was hoping to be there.
That was fun.
I was planning to be in there, and then we got the dates crossed and couldn't make it. DDO Cocktail Hour had a pants party for their 99th episode. DDO Gamer discussed lag in a new blog post. Mickey has a how-to on the Crucible Maze. That's a good one. How-tos for Maze can be very helpful for people. Enrique celebrated sagas in a new blog post as well. And other fun stuff. They mentioned the producer's letter that Severlin put out because it was the first chronicle since that happened as well. And they are still asking for feedback on their proposed Cannith crafting changes. Let's see, videos this week. Voodoo has his Deep Gnome Druid series. I think you're on what? 7, 8? Episode 7 or 8?
We're getting solid into epic levels right now.
Ooh, fun. And you've also got a lot of other videos that people can check out on raids.
Over
and all that fun
350.
stuff. That's a lot of videos, man. That's a lot of videos. Well done.
Thank you.
The weekly Wednesday video, I think had a little bit of Q&A in there. Not a lot, but a little bit at the beginning. Blogs. Congratulations to DDO Central. They now have 14,000 Twitter followers, which is an impressively high number for probably the highest of anything DDO related that I know of. But he has really made it a point to increase his DDO, his followers on Twitter, and make that his thing, and which is great because he also reblogs a lot of kind of the lesser known blogs on his site, but he also retweets a lot of stuff for DDO. So great job. If you are not following DDO Central and would like to, go find him at DDO Central on Twitter and support what he's doing as well. Grimoire has a DDO puzzle app that she is developing. And this is an app for your phone. She's looking for some feedback on what other puzzles. She's got a list of puzzles that she's already kind of getting into the app. She's also asking what other puzzles would people like to see be put into it. And then the Order of Cycletica had a Bowmaster Ascendant article talking about his. This is a guy that does all monks. It's kind of what he plays as monks, but he has a lot of very different builds with monks. So if you're playing a monk or you want to see some options on what you can do with a monk, this is a good blog to check out. This is about his Bowmaster Ascendant build, one of his 2 bow builds. He's got a couple of them. It's kind of interesting. And then DDO Players News had their 87th episode this week as well. DDOcast News. DDOcast Splat will probably be back this week. Checking to make sure that everyone can restart this week. We've had a couple weeks off. We're looking to start again this week. That's where we play Permadeath with, what should we say, Chai?
In a non-permadeath way.
A very aggressive manner. Part zerging, part griefing. We're not talking about what was the best place to cast Grease. A certain individual who will not be named did cast a Sleet Storm above a Blade Trap and send half the party into it.
Well done.
Thank you.
I guess we know who did it now.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Revenge will be sweet.
Yeah. In my defense, we could raise at that point, so it wasn't like it was the end.
Wait, you just said permadeath. You cannot raise? What are you talking about?
Yeah, you can.
We actually had to lighten our permadeath rules because we were re-rolling too much.
Because we were playing like non-permadeathers.
We couldn't get out of Gorthos with the armor. So we did that. Other stuff going on that I wanted to mention for events. Munchkin Summer Games are going. This week they did Vaughn 5 and 6 on Heroic and Epic, and also Epic Chronoscope. And general gaming news. We'll just give a shout out and say that the WoW movie opened this weekend, I believe. I haven't been paying too close attention, but it is not, to my knowledge, getting great reviews. But I have heard that it can be fun for the right kind of people. So,
what's that?
The WoW World of Warcraft movie.
Oh yeah.
It's. I think it's kind of cool. They tried to make a movie out of it, but I'm not sure. We'll see how well it goes. Like I said, they're saying it could be fun for the right kind of people. So. With that, we'll get into some lightning post. We got a little bit here to cruise through, mostly related to our episode last week about twisting. I love getting comments. I'll just say that, particularly that kind of engage the conversation and take it a little bit further and pick up on things that we miss, because there's things that we don't mention because we don't use them or we just forget. Sometimes that happens too. So Fuzzy Duck 81 wrote in. Agreeing with us on Renewal versus Cocoon. Renewal is undoubtedly more efficient and effective, but it does have restrictions that Cocoon doesn't have. A few things that we didn't mention, but he considered nice. In Sentinel, for Paladins, Light of the Dark is a nice, powerful AoE healing effect, and it's not scaling with Charisma or Paladin levels, so if you only have a Paladin splash, that can be really helpful. A lot more bang for your buck. He also pointed out Soundburst from Exalted Angel has a much higher DC than you'll ever get from regular level 2. Dreadnought, he likes the damage and haste boosts, which are good ones. From Shadow Dancer, Meld into Darkness is particularly useful since it's 100% dodge for 15 seconds that ignores your dodge bonus, which can be a really great one. For Shirati, he does like Stay Frosty or Stay Good to get a little extra proc.
I just learned that a few weeks ago. I thought that only applied to range attacks. I didn't know it applied to spellcasting.
Yeah, so does the Prism.
Pretty awesome.
The Prism
Everything in
Rainbow.
Shirati.
Yeah. He also mentioned Whirling Wrist is essential for a Thor build, which is true, and we did not mention that. This is one of those things that I don't play Thor builds, so it's not something that I always think of. But it gives like plus 30% to for a throwing rate or something like that. So
Which twist?
Whirling Wrists.
Oh yeah,
Whirling Wrists,
yep.
Which is the one that increases your throwing rate.
Yeah.
Which, if you're not a thrower, is completely useless, and if you're a thrower, is absolutely essential. That's a great point. He said for Fury, Acute Instincts can be helpful if you're having trap trouble. You can check a Rage Potion and get better search and spot, which is kind of weird, but yeah. Boulder Toss is also a decent ability. Primal Avatar, he mentioned Insidious Spores, nice damage over time spell for casters. And let's see, Magister, he likes Unearthly reactions for great saves and dodge, and a handy phasing tumble in case you get yourself boxed in. Draconic Daunting Roar can be useful for intelligence-based characters like rogues and artificers for emergency crowd control. On the topic of the third favorite soul tree, he thinks it'll end up giving nice benefits either for casting or combat, in much the way Deepwood's Stalker ties in with both. Probably some SLAs. Let's see. He talked about the captured and all gear lost thing seems too technical to do properly and will almost inevitably be issues with items being permanently lost and potentially duping and both of all those things. I think is, well, yeah, I like the idea of being, quote, captured, but I don't like the idea of having to go through you don't get to play with your gear. I think I mentioned last time that kind of interesting if you get you get captured in like a trap and get surrounded and then have to fight your way out. That would be something I would enjoy. I don't know if that's compatible with the Slave Lord's pack, though.
That could be the beginning of the last quest.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Slave Lords, but I've done the you can't access your gear and your abilities and because you're captured thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels a little tedious. It can be an interesting puzzle, but after you do it a couple times, I don't know. It's just tedious.
I've done it in tabletop, and as a DM, I basically had to put together people's character sheets in preparation for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that can be something that'd be difficult to plan on as well. Let's see. Free shards offer is great. It says it can really help you get your toes in to the Astral Shard Exchange, which is true. I got started. They had Keys of Destiny in an old version, and then it converted. I think they like phased them out, and then you could just get shards instead. So I got all mine converted into shards, and so I turned 45 shards into probably 3,000 shards at least, because I've bought stuff on the Shard Exchange. So once you get going, you can really, if you got the right stuff, you can get in there. Although I also had the great advantage of being around when the Shard Exchange kind of went on there for the first time, and I had a bunch of stuff kind of stocked up that suddenly, because it was bound to character and equip, that I could put on the Shard Exchange, and some other stuff that I just kind of kept and then was no longer really things I wanted to keep, like alchemical weapons. I think I made a killing on those. It'd be a lot harder to do these days. Other lightning posts. Ryan wrote in that if you're a melee, some of the best twists are Cocoon and Sense Weakness, and the Shadow Dancer saves boost. That's great. Asheris, who's been on the podcast a couple times, so it was a great podcast. A couple melee class twists that he liked that didn't get mentioned. From Shadow Dancer, Grim Precision, which bypasses 15% fortification, 3% dodge, is nice to have. This is one of the ones that we forgot. Just happened. It was kind of the one that I forgot. He also mentioned for Primal Avatar, if you're 2-weapon fighting or unarmed, the Symmetric Strikes level 4 and the 5% primal bonus to damage is a solid option. Depending on the situation, that may or may not be better than damage and Sense Weakness. I think the reason I didn't really mention that is I prefer Sense Weakness personally, and I haven't ever twisted in Symmetric Strikes, but it's an option. Chris called us on not picking Grim Precision out of Shadow Dancer. It's the 15% armor pen or the fortification penetration is pretty good for boss fights. I'll also throw in here, because we didn't mention it either, there's a similar ability in Grandmaster that I believe gives 10% fortification bypass and also Ghost Touch, which can be nice. And Mordecai QC wrote in that, yes, he can confirm that you need to TR in order to have momentum swing and lay waste without having cleave. He also would need to then avoid resetting Dreadnought in order to keep them and feat swapping. Let's see. Our survey question of the week comes from Battlescar on Argonessen. Is there any realistic amount of AC one character in the game can have that will actually make any kind of consistent difference?
Nowadays, yes.
What would you say that kind of number is?
I'm not sure, actually.
There's definitely a point which it...
I can tell you why I said yes, though.
Well, let's do that.
I have a tank character, and one of my guildmates has a tank character, and I asked him why he's more effective. And we compared our stats, and the only thing he had significantly more than I did was AC. And he was actually getting missed more than me. He wasn't taking less damage, like we would compare our damage as well. I was taking roughly the similar amounts of damage as he was. He was just getting hit somewhat less, therefore giving the healers the ability to heal him without having to take their cholesterol medication before going into the raid.
I will say that AC is it's very level dependent. Since they made the AC changes, I would say that lower levels are more forgiving of how much AC you have. You can have a very small amount of AC and get a lot of bang for your buck out of it.
Yep.
There is definitely a difference in having some AC. I would say that all of my characters went from AC being completely meaningless to having some measure of effectiveness and actually
It gets
having
tagged
some.
into mischance.
Yeah. Now,
Essentially.
having said that, more AC is always going to be better for sure. I would say that the places where I start to notice having AC would probably be 100 to 120.
I agree with that.
You see, I was taking Voodoo's advice. I was trying to make my character better.
There you go.
Yeah, 100. Once you start getting into the hundreds, especially like beyond 120, and then I'm talking about end game numbers, you're going to see a significant difference. And you're absolutely right. I mean, obviously it's level dependent. And if you have all your martial epic past lives, that's another 36 AC. It's giant. And if you have all those, and you go back to you TR to level 1, and you have 36 bonus AC in heroics, if you're putting any other effort into building your AC up, I mean, you're basically unhittable in heroics.
Yeah, so there you go. So there's definitely a point where you can get it meaningful. Defense is always one of those things where you're balancing multiple different channels, right? Dodge, AC, PRR are kind of the three ones you're going to be managing. My general approach is PRR is the most important because you're going to get hit, and getting hit for less damage is better. And then I would say I probably lean after that more towards AC than to dodge. But that has more to do with the fact that generally I'm going to take heavier armor, which is going to mean I can have less dodge bonus compared to AC. Like there's a dodge cap that's pretty easy to achieve once you start wearing heavy armor. So I probably tend to go more towards AC. But PRR is probably the only one I really look at trying. PRR and MRR are the two that I look at getting higher, consistently higher. That's kind of my approach. Having said that, more AC is going to help. And I'm sure you can get... I wonder what the highest AC you can get to is these days. I haven't looked in a while.
I have 209 on my druid caster right now. That's an unyielding sentinel, but I think that's pretty freaking awesome for a druid caster.
Well, and you're talking about a
pure?
caster, so...
It was pure, and when I was pure, I think it was at 191. But now I have the one level of wizard because I'm deep gnome, and with improved mage armor, it's taking me to 209 at endgame.
So there you go. There's some options.
Cool.
And 200 is I would say 200 is a great AC. Most people don't run with that high AC. The trick, I will say, kind of the closing thought on this. The trick about going really defensive with your tanks, that's a great goal to have with your tanks. Just make sure that they still have offense. Because the most survivable tank in the world is worth nothing if they can't hold aggro. And holding aggro is probably harder today than it ever has been with how much damage people can put out. So... something to keep in mind.
Let's plug a previous DDOcast that I remember being on where we talked about tanking and how to build tanks and raid tanking. There's a couple episodes, and I really felt like we had some really awesome information about creating a tank and philosophies behind that.
Yes, we did. Absolutely. And I will look that up, putting in the numbers. But while we're doing that, we're going to close out the show. So... Voodoo, why don't you tell people about what you're doing and your video channel and the High Lords teaching raids and stuff?
Okay, cool. I have a YouTube channel. It's an official fan site. Like I said earlier, it's over 350 videos. Like pretty much they're all narrated. That's one of the things that sets my videos apart, I think, from a lot of other videos that you find on YouTube where it's just watching somebody run a quest. Like I'm talking and narrating, talking about my gear, showing you what I have, how I'm getting what I have. and talking you through quests. There's lots of guides. There's lots of raid guides, crafting tutorials, lots of good stuff. Fun series. I'm working on a series right now where I take my beloved main tune that for years was a pure 20 druid human caster healer tankish build, and now I'm doing it as a deep gnome, keeping the one wizard. So that's a fun series we're doing now. In the High Lords of Malkier on Sarlona, we do weekly teaching raids for new players. If you've never raided, or you're new to raids, or you're looking to learn raids for whatever reason, we've got 3 weeks left of these before we close them out for the year. This is our 3rd year doing them, and hopefully we'll bring them back next year. But like, if you haven't gotten on board with that and you want to learn raids, like, join us. We teach you how to run these raids in a very low-stress environment. We encourage you to ask questions, and it's a lot of fun.
And you can catch videos of past ones of those on your channel as well.
Yes, like we have videos, a teaching raid video for pretty much every raid in the game. So if you're looking to if you're on a different server and you want to know how a raid is run, like in these videos, which are all listed in the guides and strategies forum, and I have them on my channel as well. Like we explain like pretty much every part of the raid.
Which 3 do you have left?
For this season, Epic Demon Queen, then Reverse Fate and FOT. Then we're gonna close out the season with our Death to Sulamati's event, where we do VOD, TOD, and E Chrono, all the raids that have Sulamatis in it. That was fun.
Nice
when we
thing
did
to
it.
do that. Yeah. Great. Antha, do you want to plug anything? If he's still here and not muted.
Here. No, I don't have anything to plug.
All right. Chai, anything you want to plug?
Sublime Permadeath Guild, sublimepermadeath.shivtr.com. Our rules are on the website. If you want a little bit more challenge and think you would enjoy playing Permadeath, when you watch our Kersplat videos, don't think that's how we play.
It's really not.
In regular Permadeath. But yeah, come hang out. Basically, roll a level 1 character, get to the point where you're past Korthos so that we can guild invite you, and then look in the who list and see, if somebody's on. We can log on an officer and get you invited.
Yeah, DDOcast is what happens when you have a Zerger and guy who doesn't play permadeath lead a group of some permadeath people and some not permadeath people.
Yeah, don't get me wrong; it's hilarious and fun. It's just not
hilarious.
it's just not dungeon crawl style permadeath.
But it is a lot of fun, and there's some great and hilarious moments in there. I think recently Chai met his match in water, which was pretty amusing.
Yeah.
The
most dangerous part of the quest, swimming.
That's a quest right there. When swimming is the dangerous part. So thanks for listening to the show, especially the folks in the chat room and being a part of the show and putting in some comments. It's great. It's really helpful too. I love having comments. Love reading comments too. So please feel free to leave comments wherever you might find this. I try and keep up with them. You can send me an email, leave comments. It's helpful for us, and I think for listeners too. And, these are 4 people here giving their opinions, so love to involve more people and share those opinions, and especially for some of these questions, having the discussion, and the devs do occasionally chime in as well, which is great. But they also get a chance to see what players are thinking in some of these topics as well. Let's see. Thanks to the guests here. Thanks to you guys for joining me today, taking some time on your day and making the show happen. And thanks to all the contributors for DDOcast. There's a great group of probably 10 to 15 people that help everywhere from frequently on, like Chai and Voodoo, and on semi-frequently like Antha, and some people that just come on once in a blue moon. They're all very helpful. Really appreciate all their help in making this show happen. And thanks to Turbine and Wizards for making DDO happen, and thanks to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. We have swag. I don't know if a lot of people know that. We have some T-shirts, some mugs that you can buy. It's not I'm not pulling money in from any of this. It's just if you want to buy some of that stuff, you are free to do so. If you'd like to be part of the show, if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, or a topic you'd like to hear us debate, I always love getting that feedback from people. Because we want to be talking about what people want to hear us talking about. You can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com, or you can send us any of those kind of communicate emails, all that stuff. All that stuff works in getting a hold of me. And our tip for the week is performance over graphics, which is a very good way of saying it. Because if you don't have good performance, the graphics won't do you a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to try not to die in your quests. And build the challenge.
Where do I sign up for my therapy session?